They say you can't choose who you fall for. But what if the person your heart wants is your boyfriend's brother? One dinner, one look, one moment that shattered everything Lena Carter thought she knew about herself. She walked into the DeLuca mansion expecting an ordinary family meal. Instead, she locked eyes with Victor, a man who would become her undoing. This is a story about desire that breaks all the rules, choices that destroy families, and a love so dangerous it could get her killed. Stick around until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The rain came down in sheets that Wednesday evening, turning Chicago's streets into rivers of reflected neon. Lena Carter sat in the passenger seat of Adrian DeLuca's Mercedes, watching the city blur past her window, her stomach tight with nerves she couldn't quite name. "You're quiet," Adrian said, glancing over at her. His smile was easy, the kind that had made her say yes to coffee 6 months ago. "Nervous?" "A little." She tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear. "Meeting the family it's a big deal. They're going to love you." His hand found hers across the console. "My mom's been asking about you for weeks, and my sister Rosa. She's dying to meet the woman who finally got me to settle down." Lena managed a smile, but the knot in her stomach didn't loosen. It wasn't that she doubted Adrian. He was good to her, patient, attentive, the kind of boyfriend who remembered she liked her coffee with oat milk and always texted when he'd be late. Safe. Predictable. Everything her last relationship hadn't been. So why did she feel like she was driving toward something she couldn't take back? The DeLuca estate sat behind iron gates in Lincoln Park, the kind of house that made Lena's modest yoga studio look like a storage closet. 3 stories of stone and glass, windows glowing warm against the storm. Adrian punched in a code and the gate swung open with mechanical precision. "Home sweet home," he said, pulling into a circular driveway already crowded with expensive cars. A black Range Rover, a silver Audi, a motorcycle that looked like it cost more than Lena's annual rent. "Your family likes their toys," she murmured. "Wait until you meet them. The cars are the least interesting part." Inside, the house smelled like garlic and red wine, and something else Lena couldn't identify. Old money, maybe, or just the weight of history. Marble floors, oil paintings that looked original, a chandelier that belonged in a museum. A woman appeared from what must have been the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. She was small, 50s, with Adrian's same dark eyes and a smile that crinkled at the corners. "Finally!" She pulled Lena into a hug before she could react. "I was starting to think Adrian made you up. I'm Maria. Come, come." Everyone's in the dining room arguing about politics like civilized people. Lena let herself be swept along, Adrian's hand warm on her lower back. The dining room was enormous, a table that could seat 20, though tonight only 5 places were set. A man who had to be Adrian's father stood at the head, gray-haired and sharp-eyed. A young woman, Rosa probably, was scrolling through her phone, looking bored. And then there was the empty chair. "Where's Victor?" Maria asked, frowning. "Running late," Rosa said without looking up. "Shocking, I know." "He said he'd be here," Maria insisted. Adrian's father, Antonio, Lena remembered, waved a dismissive hand. "He'll show up when he shows up. Let's not wait. I'm starving." They settled around the table. Maria brought out dish after dish, pasta and red sauce, chicken that fell off the bone, bread still warm from the oven. The conversation flowed easily around Lena, the family clearly used to filling silence with words. Antonio asked about her studio, his questions polite but probing. Rosa wanted to know if she taught hot yoga, because she'd tried it once and nearly passed out. Lena was starting to relax, starting to think maybe this wouldn't be so bad, when the front door opened. She heard it before she saw him, footsteps in the hallway, measured and unhurried. Then he appeared in the doorway, and everything stopped. Victor DeLuca was nothing like his brother. Adrian was handsome in an approachable way, clean-cut, friendly, the guy you'd trust with your secrets. Victor was something else entirely. Taller, broader in the shoulders, with dark hair that was just slightly too long, and eyes that seemed to catalog everything in a single glance. He wore a black shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms marked with scars Lena couldn't help but notice. He looked dangerous, like he'd been somewhere Lena had never been and done things she couldn't imagine. "You're late," Maria said, but there was no real heat in it. "Traffic." His voice was lower than Adrian's, rougher around the edges. Then his gaze shifted to Lena, and she felt it like a physical thing, a weight, a question, a challenge. For 3 seconds, that felt like 3 hours, they stared at each other. Lena's heart kicked against her ribs. Her mouth went dry. Somewhere in the back of her mind, a warning bell started ringing, but she couldn't look away, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but sit there while something nameless and terrifying unfurled in her chest. "Victor," Adrian said, standing, "this is Lena." "Lena, my brother Victor." Victor's expression didn't change. He nodded once, a movement so slight it barely qualified as acknowledgement, then took the empty seat across from her. "Nice to meet you," Lena managed, hating how her voice sounded. Too high, too breathless. "Likewise." He reached for the wine bottle, poured himself a glass, and took a drink without breaking eye contact. The meal continued, but Lena barely tasted the food. She was too aware of Victor's presence across the table, the way he listened more than he spoke, the way his gaze kept drifting back to her when he thought no one was watching. Or maybe he didn't care if anyone was watching. "So, Lena," Rosa said, leaning forward with sudden interest, "how'd you and Adrian meet? He's been super secretive about it." "Yoga class," Adrian answered before Lena could. He squeezed her knee under the table. "I threw out my back doing something stupid at the gym, and my doctor recommended trying yoga. Walked into Lena's studio, took one look at her, and forgot why I was there." Maria laughed. "Love at first sight?" "Something like that." Adrian's smile was genuine, unguarded. He really believed it. Lena felt something twist inside her. "And you?" Victor's voice cut through the warmth like a blade. "Was it love at first sight for you too?" Everyone turned to look at her. Adrian was still smiling, expectant. Maria looked delighted. Even Rosa had put down her phone. But Victor's eyes held something else. A test. A dare. "I thought he was sweet," Lena said carefully. "Clumsy, but sweet." "Sweet," Victor repeated, like he was tasting the word and finding it lacking. "That's one word for it." "What would you use?" The question was out before Lena could stop it. The corner of Victor's mouth lifted, not quite a smile, but close. "I'm still deciding." Adrian laughed, oblivious to the tension crackling across the table. "Don't mind Victor. He's constitutionally incapable of being straightforward about anything." "That's not true," Rosa said. "Sometimes he's very direct. Remember when he told Aunt Sophia her new boyfriend was probably scamming her?" "He was," Victor said flatly. "You could have been nicer about it." "Why?" "Being nice wouldn't have changed the facts." Antonio cleared his throat. "Can we have one family dinner without you starting something?" "I'm not starting anything." Victor's tone was mild, but his eyes never left Lena's face. "I'm just making conversation." The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. Lena contributed when spoken to, laughed when appropriate, and tried desperately to ignore the way her skin felt too tight every time Victor looked at her, which was often. Too often. When the plates were cleared and Maria insisted everyone move to the living room for coffee and dessert, Lena excused herself to find the bathroom. She needed a minute, 60 seconds of peace to pull herself together and remember why she was here. For Adrian. Kind, uncomplicated Adrian who made her laugh and never made her feel like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. The bathroom was down a hallway lined with family photos. Lena splashed cold water on her face, gripped the marble sink, and stared at her reflection. "Get it together," she whispered. "He's just a guy, you're being ridiculous." But when she stepped back into the hallway, he was there. Victor leaned against the wall, hands in his pockets, looking like he'd been waiting. The hallway was narrow enough that she'd have to brush past him to get by. "Enjoying the evening?" he asked. "It's been nice." Lena's voice came out steadier than she felt. "Your family is wonderful. They like you." He said it like an accusation. "Is that a problem?" "Might be." He pushed off the wall, closing the distance between them by half. Not threatening exactly, but not friendly either. "My brother has terrible taste in women, but you don't seem terrible." Thanks, I think. It wasn't a compliment. His gaze traveled over her face, lingering on her mouth before meeting her eyes again. You're wrong for him. Anger sparked in Lena's chest, hot and sudden. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. His voice dropped lower. I know you're sitting at that table pretending everything's fine when you look like you want to run. I know you've been holding your breath every time someone asks you a question. And I know that when you looked at me earlier, it wasn't the way someone looks at their boyfriend's brother. Lena's heart slammed against her ribs. You're out of line. Probably. He didn't move, didn't back down. But I'm not wrong. I love Adrian. She said it like a shield. Do you? The question was quiet, almost gentle. Or do you love the idea of him? Safe, easy, no complications. What the hell do you know about it? More than you think. Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the armor, there and gone again. I've seen this before. Someone trying so hard to be something they're not that they forget what they actually want. And what do I want? The question hung between them, dangerous. Victor studied her for a long moment, his jaw tight. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. You really want me to answer that? Victor! Maria's voice echoed from the living room. Come help your father with the coffee maker. He's about to break it again. The spell broke. Victor stepped back, creating space Lena hadn't realized she needed. Coming? He called, then looked at Lena one more time. Do yourself a favor. If you're going to be with my brother, actually be with him. Don't waste his time. He walked away, leaving Lena alone in the hallway with her pulse racing and her thoughts in chaos. When she rejoined the group, Adrian pulled her down next to him on the couch, draping an arm around her shoulders. He was telling some story about a client at work, animated and laughing, completely unaware that Lena's world had just tilted on its axis. Victor sat across the room, coffee cup in hand, listening to his father discuss something about the business. He didn't look at Lena again for the rest of the night, but she couldn't stop looking at him. The drive home was quiet. Adrian seemed to take it as contentment, humming along with the radio while the rain continued to fall. Lena pressed her forehead against the cool window and watched the city light streak past. That went well, Adrian said when they pulled up outside her apartment. Mom texted me 3 times already about how much she likes you. They're great, Lena said automatically. Victor was being weird, though. Sorry about that. He gets like that sometimes, all intense and cryptic. It's just how he is. It's fine. Adrian leaned over, tucking her hair behind her ear the way he always did. I'm really happy you came tonight. I know family stuff can be overwhelming, but I don't know. It felt right having you there, like you fit. He kissed her, sweet and chaste, and Lena kissed him back, even though her mind was somewhere else entirely. Text me when you get inside? He asked. Always do. She watched him drive away, then climbed the stairs to her 3rd-floor walk-up in a daze. Inside, her apartment felt too quiet, too empty. She dropped her keys on the counter, kicked off her shoes, and stood in the middle of her living room trying to make sense of what had just happened. Nothing had happened. That was the problem. A look, a conversation, a handful of words that shouldn't have meant anything, but they did. Lena's phone buzzed, a text from Adrian. Made it home. You're amazing. Sleep well. She typed back a heart emoji and set the phone down, then walked to her bedroom and stood in front of the mirror. You're being crazy, she told her reflection. He was just messing with you, testing you, that's all. But when she closed her eyes, all she could see was the way Victor had looked at her in that hallway, like he could see straight through every wall she'd ever built, like he knew exactly what she was running from. And somehow, impossibly, that terrified her more than anything else. The next morning, Lena taught 3 classes back to back, throwing herself into work the way she always did when her thoughts got too loud. She corrected postures, adjusted breathing, guided her students through sequences she could do in her sleep. By noon, her body was tired enough that her brain finally started to quiet. She was rolling up mats in the empty studio when her phone rang. Adrian's name flashed on the screen. Hey, she answered, tucking the phone between her ear and shoulder. Hey yourself, how's your day? Busy. Good. Just finished teaching. Listen, I know this is last minute, but Victor's having some people over tomorrow night. Low-key thing, drinks and food. He specifically asked if you'd come. Lena's hand stilled on the mat. He did? Yeah, surprised me too. Usually he's not big on the whole get to know my brother's girlfriends thing, but I think he wants to make up for being weird at dinner. Adrian, you don't have to if you don't want to. No pressure. But it might be nice. Give you a chance to see him in a more relaxed setting. Plus, Rosa will be there and she really wants to hang out with you. She keeps texting me about it. Lena closed her eyes. Every instinct she had was screaming at her to say no, to put distance between herself and whatever was happening, to protect what she had with Adrian, even if what she had with Adrian was starting to feel like a comfortable lie. Okay, she heard herself say. What time? Adrian's relief was audible. 7? I'll pick you up at 6:30? Sounds good. When she hung up, Lena stared at her phone for a long moment, then very deliberately threw it into her bag before she could do something stupid like text Victor directly and ask him what the hell he was playing at. Because that's what this was, wasn't it? A game, a test, something. She just couldn't figure out what, or why part of her wanted to play anyway. That night, Lena lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Her mind kept replaying the moment in the hallway, dissecting every word, every look, every subtle shift in Victor's expression. You're wrong for him. I've seen this before. You really want me to answer that? She rolled onto her side, punching her pillow into a different shape like that would somehow make her more comfortable. It didn't work. The rational part of her brain, the part that had built a successful business from nothing, that had survived a toxic relationship and come out stronger, knew exactly what was happening. She was projecting, romanticizing danger because her life had gotten too predictable, creating problems where none existed because comfort felt too much like complacency. But the other part of her, the part that had felt that jolt of recognition when Victor walked into the room, wasn't convinced. She'd dated enough to know the difference between attraction and chemistry. Attraction was surface level, easily explained by symmetry and pheromones and whatever biological imperatives evolution had hardwired into the human brain. Chemistry was something else. Chemistry was when someone looked at you and saw past the person you pretended to be. When a stranger's words hit closer to home than your best friend's. When 3 minutes in a hallway felt more real than 6 months of perfectly pleasant dates. Lena grabbed her phone, squinting at the brightness. 2:47 a.m. She scrolled through her messages with Adrian, months of sweet good mornings and random memes and pictures of meals he thought she'd like, evidence of a relationship that worked on paper. That should have been enough. That would have been enough if she'd never met Victor. Damn it, she whispered into the darkness. Tomorrow night, she'd go to Victor's place. She'd be charming and normal and exactly what Adrian needed her to be. She'd prove to herself that the thing in the hallway was a fluke, a moment of temporary insanity brought on by stress and red wine. And if Victor tried to pull her aside again, tried to unsettle her with those two knowing eyes and that rough voice, she'd shut it down. Firmly. Finally. She'd choose Adrian. She'd choose safe. Even if safe was starting to feel like the most dangerous thing of all. By Friday evening, Lena had almost convinced herself she was overreacting. Almost. She'd spent the day teaching, responding to emails, restocking essential oils, all the mundane tasks that made up her life. Normal. Manageable. Nothing like the spiral she'd fallen into Wednesday night. Adrian arrived exactly on time, because of course he did. He stood at her door in a blue button-down that brought out his eyes, holding a bouquet of sunflowers. For you, he said, kissing her cheek, because you mentioned once that roses feel too formal. Lena took the flowers, something warm and guilty settling in her chest. You didn't have to. I wanted to. He followed her inside while she found a vase. You've been quiet the last couple days. Everything okay? Just tired. Back-to-back classes. You work too hard. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. One of these days I'm going to convince you to hire another instructor. Can't afford it yet. Then I'll keep nagging until you can. She leaned back into him, letting herself have this moment of easy affection. This was good. This was real. Whatever she'd felt in that hallway was just her brain playing tricks, finding problems where none existed. The drive to Victor's place took them south, away from the manicured lawns of Lincoln Park, and into a neighborhood Lena didn't know well. Older buildings, brick and stone, the kind of place where the money was quieter but no less present. Victor's apartment was on the top floor of a converted warehouse. Adrian punched in a code at the entrance, and they rode the elevator up in comfortable silence. "Fair warning," Adrian said as the doors opened. Victor's idea of a small gathering usually involves at least 20 people. He collects strays like some people collect stamps. But when they walked in, the apartment was nearly empty. Rosa sat on a leather couch, scrolling through her phone. A man Lena didn't recognize stood by the windows, nursing a beer, and Victor was in the kitchen, doing something with onions and a cutting board. "This is it?" Adrian asked, looking around. "Where is everyone?" "This is everyone." Victor didn't look up from his knife work. "I said small. You assumed I was lying. You usually are." "Fair point." He finally glanced up, his gaze sliding past Adrian to land on Lena. "You came. You invited me." Well, she hated how defensive it sounded. "I did." He went back to the onions. "Make yourselves comfortable. Food'll be ready in 20. The apartment was nothing like Lena expected. She'd imagined something cold and minimal, all sharp edges and expensive emptiness. Instead, it felt lived in. Books stacked on tables, a record player with actual vinyl, art on the walls that looked chosen, not just expensive. "Lena, this is Marcus," Rosa said, gesturing to the man by the window. "He works with Victor. Marcus, this is Adrian's girlfriend." Marcus raised his beer in greeting. He was older than Victor, maybe early 40s, with the kind of face that suggested he'd seen things most people hadn't. "Heard a lot about you." "All good, I hope." "Mostly." His smile was crooked. "Victor mentioned you teach yoga. That true? Or is he making stuff up again?" "It's true. I own a studio in Wicker Park." "Huh. Might have to stop by sometime. My back's been killing me." "You're too old for field work," Victor called from the kitchen. "I keep telling you that. And I keep ignoring you." Marcus turned back to Lena. "So, how'd you end up with this guy?" He nodded toward Adrian. Adrian launched into the story Lena had heard him tell a dozen times. The back injury, the yoga class, the instant connection. She smiled in the right places, nodded when expected, but her attention kept drifting to the kitchen where Victor moved with an efficiency that suggested he actually knew what he was doing. "You cook?" she asked before she could stop herself. Victor glanced over his shoulder. "Occasionally, when I'm not busy disappointing my father." "You disappoint him plenty while cooking, too," Rosa muttered. "Remember the time you made that thing with the squid ink and Dad thought you were trying to poison him?" "It was perfectly good pasta. It was black. That's how it's supposed to look." Adrian laughed, settling onto the couch and pulling Lena down next to him. His hand found hers automatically, fingers intertwining in a gesture so familiar it should have been comforting. Instead, Lena felt trapped. The evening unfolded slowly. Marcus told stories about jobs he'd worked, vague enough that Lena couldn't tell if he was talking about construction or something else entirely. Rosa complained about her internship at an art gallery where her boss kept hitting on her. Adrian jumped in with advice about HR departments and documentation, earnest and helpful in the way he always was. And Victor cooked, occasionally contributing a dry comment or a correction to whatever story was being told. He seemed content to stay in the background, which should have made Lena relax. It didn't. When the food was ready, pasta with some kind of red sauce that smelled incredible, they gathered around a table that looked original to the building. Victor served without ceremony, pouring wine and sliding plates across the scarred wood surface. "So, Lena," Marcus said, twirling pasta onto his fork, "what's your read on this family? Because from the outside, we're a mess." "Marcus," Rosa warned. "What? It's a valid question. The girl's dating into the DeLuca circus. She deserves to know what she's getting into." "I think every family's complicated," Lena said carefully. "Yours just seems more, honest about it." Victor made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Diplomatic. I'm trying to be polite." "Why?" He met her eyes across the table. "We're not." "Victor, stop being an ass, see?" Adrian said, but there was no real heat in it. "Not everyone enjoys brutal honesty at dinner." "Maybe they should." "Maybe you should learn when to shut up." Rosa sighed dramatically. And this is what I deal with, constantly. It's exhausting. The conversation shifted to safer topics. A movie Rosa wanted to see, Marcus's daughter's upcoming graduation, Adrian's plans to renovate his condo. Lena contributed where appropriate, but part of her attention stayed fixed on Victor. He was different here, in his own space. Less guarded, maybe, though that wasn't quite right. More like he'd stopped pretending to be something he wasn't. When Marcus made a joke, Victor's smile was genuine. When Rosa complained, he listened with actual attention. And when he looked at Lena, which he did more than was strictly necessary, she couldn't read his expression at all. After dinner, Marcus made his excuses. Early morning, long drive, and Rosa disappeared to take a phone call that apparently couldn't wait, which left Lena, Adrian, and Victor in the living room with a bottle of wine that was too good for the paper cups they were drinking from. "I should help you clean up," Lena said, standing. "Leave it." Victor was sprawled in an armchair, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him. "I'll deal with it later." "It's no trouble." "I said leave it." Not harsh, but final. Lena sat back down. Adrian checked his phone, frowning. "Work email. Give me 2 seconds." He stepped out onto the small balcony, already typing a response, which left Lena and Victor alone. The silence stretched. Lena sipped her wine and stared at a painting on the wall. Abstract, all blues and grays. The kind of thing that probably cost more than her car. "You don't have to stay," Victor said quietly. Adrian's, "I'm not talking about tonight." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I'm talking about all of it. If you're not happy, you can walk away." "I am happy." "You're comfortable. That's not the same thing." Lena set down her cup with more force than necessary. "Why do you care?" "I don't." The lie was obvious. "But my brother does, and he deserves better than someone who's just going through the motions. You don't know anything about what I'm doing. Then tell me I'm wrong." He stood, crossing to the couch but not sitting, just standing there, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "Tell me you're in love with him, that you think about him when he's not around, that when he touches you, it feels like something more than just nice. That's none of your business." "You're right, it's not." He didn't move. "But you're going to marry him, Lena. That's where this is heading. He's already picked out the ring." The words hit like cold water. "What?" "He showed me last week. Princess cut, platinum band. Very tasteful, very Adrian." Victor's voice was flat, emotionless. "He's planning to propose in a couple months, some big romantic gesture at that restaurant you went to on your first date." Lena couldn't breathe. "He told you this?" "He tells me everything. We're brothers." Something flickered across Victor's face. "He's so damn happy, and I keep thinking, she doesn't feel the same way. She's going to break his heart. And the worst part? I don't think you even realize you're doing it." "You're wrong." But the words sounded hollow even to her own ears. "Am I?" He crouched down so they were eye level. "Then prove it. Go out there right now and tell him you love him. Not because he said it first, not because it's what you're supposed to say. Because you mean it." Lena's hands were shaking. She clasped them together, willing herself to stay calm. "Why are you doing this?" "Because someone has to." "No, I mean..." She gestured helplessly. "Why do you care? You barely know me." Victor was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "I know enough." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I've got." They stared at each other, the air between them thick with something Lena didn't want to name. On the balcony, Adrian was still on his phone, pacing and gesturing. "You need to stop this," Lena whispered. "Whatever you think you're doing." "I'm not doing anything." But he didn't move away. "I'm just asking questions you should have asked yourself 6 months ago." "I know what I want." "Do you?" His gaze dropped to her mouth, then back up. "Because from where I'm sitting, you look terrified." "Of what?" "Figuring out the answer." The balcony door slid open. Adrian stepped back inside, still looking at his phone. "Sorry about that. Crisis averted." He glanced up, taking in the scene. Victor crouched in front of Lena, the space between them charged and strange. "Everything okay?" Victor stood smoothly. "Just talking. Lena was asking about the painting. It was such an obvious lie that Lena almost laughed, but Adrian just smiled, oblivious or choosing to be, and settled onto the couch next to her. It's great, right? Victor has amazing taste when he actually tries, which is never, but still. Thanks, Victor said dryly. He picked up his wine cup. I'm going to check on Rosa. Make sure she hasn't murdered whoever's on that phone call. He left, and Lena felt like she could breathe again. Adrian draped an arm around her shoulders. You two seem to be getting along better. I'm glad. It means a lot to me, having the people I care about actually like each other. Yeah, Lena managed. Me too. They stayed another hour. Rosa came back from her call and declared she needed ice cream, so they all walked to a place 2 blocks over that stayed open late. Adrian and Rosa argued about toppings while Victor paid, and Marcus sent pictures of his daughter's prom dress. It was normal, almost aggressively so. Lena ate her chocolate chip cookie dough and watched Victor lean against the counter, scrolling through his phone with the kind of focus that suggested he was working even when he wasn't supposed to be. He'd rolled up his sleeves again, and she could see more of those scars on his forearms, some old, some newer, all telling stories she'd probably never hear. Earth to Lena. Adrian waved a hand in front of her face. You zoned out. Sorry, tired. Want to head home? Yeah, that'd be good. They said their goodbyes. Rosa hugged her, making Lena promise they'd get coffee soon. Marcus gave her a 2-fingered salute and told her she had an open invitation to the studio. And Victor nodded, that same minimal acknowledgement from the first night, before turning back to his phone. In the car, Adrian was chattier than usual. That went well, right? I think Victor really likes you. He doesn't cook for just anyone. It was nice. The lie came easily now. We should do it again. Maybe have them over to my place next time. He reached over, squeezing her knee. I really love that you're making an effort with my family. It means everything. Guilt twisted in Lena's stomach, sharp and unavoidable. When Adrian walked her to her door, he kissed her longer than usual, deeper, like he was trying to prove something. Lena kissed him back and tried not to think about Victor's words. He's already picked out the ring. Inside her apartment, she dropped her bag and stood in the middle of the living room, trying to make sense of what was happening. This was supposed to be simple. She'd met a nice guy. They dated. It was going well. Nothing about that should have felt complicated. Except now there was Victor, asking questions she didn't want to answer and looking at her like he could see every doubt she'd ever buried. Her phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. Home safe. You're the best thing that's happened to me. Lena stared at the message until her vision blurred, then set the phone down and walked to her bedroom. She changed into pajamas, washed her face, went through all the motions of getting ready for bed. But when she lay down, sleep was impossible. Around 2 in the morning, her phone lit up with a new message. Unknown number. You asked why I care. Still figuring that out myself. Lena's heart stopped. She read it 3 times, her thumb hovering over the keyboard, a dozen responses forming and dissolving in her mind. She should block the number, should tell Adrian, should do literally anything except what she was about to do. Don't text me again, she typed. The response came immediately. Okay. Lena waited, staring at the screen. That was it? Just okay? 5 minutes passed. 10. Nothing. She threw the phone across the bed and rolled onto her side, pulling the blanket up to her chin. This was good. This was the right call. Victor would back off. She'd focus on her relationship with Adrian and everything would go back to normal. Except 3 hours later, when dawn was just starting to break, her phone buzzed again. For what it's worth, I wish I could. Lena sat up, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. She should delete the message, pretend she never saw it. Go back to sleep and wake up as someone who didn't feel like her entire world was balancing on the edge of a knife. Instead, she typed, "What does that mean?" The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "It means you're right, I should stay away. So why don't you?" The pause was longer this time, long enough that Lena thought maybe he'd changed his mind, decided this was too dangerous, backed away from whatever edge they were both standing on. Then, because I can't. Lena stared at those 3 words until they stopped making sense, until they were just shapes on a screen, until the sun was fully up and she could hear her neighbors starting to move around. She didn't respond, couldn't. What was there to say to that? Instead, she got up, made coffee, and tried to pretend the last few hours hadn't happened. The weekend passed in a blur of classes and meal prep and responding to client emails. Adrian called Saturday afternoon, suggesting they catch a movie, but Lena begged off, claiming a headache, which wasn't entirely a lie. Her skull felt like it was full of broken glass. Sunday morning, she taught her usual 7 a.m. class to a group of dedicated regulars who didn't mind that she was going through the motions more than usual. Afterwards, she stayed late, reorganizing the storage closet for no reason except it gave her something to do with her hands. Her phone stayed silent. No more messages from Victor. Nothing from Adrian except the usual good morning text and a picture of his coffee. By Sunday night, Lena had almost convinced herself it was over. Whatever weird moment of temporary insanity had gripped them both, it had passed. They'd both come to their senses. Then Monday afternoon, Victor walked into her studio. Lena was at the front desk, updating the schedule on the computer. She heard the door chime, called out, "Be right with you," and looked up to find him standing there in jeans and a black t-shirt, looking entirely out of place among the meditation cushions and motivational posters. "What are you doing here?" The words came out sharper than she intended. "Checking out the place." He glanced around, hands in his pockets. "Adrian talks about it all the time. Figured I should see it." "Does Adrian know you're here?" "No." Victor met her eyes. "Should he?" Lena's pulse kicked up. The studio was empty. Her next class wasn't for another hour, just the two of them, and too much silence. "You need to leave," she said quietly. "Probably." He didn't move. "Nice space. How long have you had it?" "Victor, 3 years? 4? He wandered over to the window that looked out onto the street. Must have taken a lot to build something like this from nothing. "What do you want?" He turned to face her. To apologize. That wasn't what Lena expected. For what? The texts, the questions, all of it. He ran a hand through his hair, looking frustrated. "I was out of line. You're with my brother, and I should respect that instead of making everything complicated." Okay. Lena's throat was tight. Apology accepted. Now leave. In a minute. He crossed to the desk, leaning against it, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "I need to explain something first." "You don't owe me an explanation." "Maybe not, but I'm going to give you one anyway." He was quiet for a moment, choosing his words. "My brother is a good person. The best person I know, actually, and he deserves someone who's all in, not someone who's settling because it's easier than being alone. I'm not... Let me finish." His voice was gentle but firm. "I've watched him get hurt before, by women who said they loved him but really just loved the idea of him, the stability, the family, the whole package. And I told myself I wouldn't let it happen again. So this is about protecting Adrian." "But yeah." He held her gaze. "That's all it is." The lie hung between them, obvious and painful. "Okay," Lena said again, because what else was there to say? Victor pushed off the desk. "I'll get out of your way, and I won't text again. You have my word." He was halfway to the door when Lena heard herself say, "Wait." He stopped, his back to her. "Those texts. Did you mean them?" Victor didn't turn around. "Does it matter?" "Yes." The silence stretched so long that Lena thought he wasn't going to answer. Then, so quietly she almost missed it. Every word. He left before she could respond, the door chiming again, leaving Lena alone with her thoughts and the terrible, exhilarating knowledge that she wasn't crazy. That whatever this was, she wasn't imagining it. That maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the only one standing on the edge of something she couldn't take back. Lena stood frozen in her empty studio for a solid 5 minutes after Victor left, staring at the door like she could rewind time and make different choices. Better choices. Choices that didn't involve her heart racing and her hands shaking and this sick, twisting feeling in her gut that was equal parts terror and something she refused to name. She grabbed her phone, pulled up Adrian's contact, and stared at his picture. The one from their trip to Milwaukee last month. Him grinning at the camera with a beer in hand, sun-kissed and happy, and completely unaware that his girlfriend was falling apart. Her thumb hovered over the call button. She should tell him, right now, get everything out in the open before it became something she couldn't take back. Adrian deserved that much. He deserved honesty. But what would she even say? Your brother came to my studio and said he meant those texts? Nothing happened, but I wanted it to. I'm having feelings I don't understand for someone I barely know. Lena locked her phone and shoved it in her pocket. The rest of the week crawled by. She threw herself into work with an intensity that had her students asking if she was okay, taught extra classes, stayed late reorganizing inventory that didn't need reorganizing, anything to keep her mind occupied. Adrian texted her every day, sweet and consistent as always. They had dinner Wednesday night at that Thai place she liked, and she listened to him talk about a difficult client and his plans to visit his parents next weekend. He asked if she wanted to come along, meet some extended family, see where he grew up. I don't know, Lena said, pushing pad thai around her plate. That feels like a big step. We've been together 6 months. Adrian reached across the table, taking her hand. My mom's already planning the seating chart for Christmas dinner with you in mind. It's May. She likes to plan ahead. He smiled that easy smile. But seriously, no pressure. If you're not ready, that's fine. I just thought it might be nice. Can I think about it? Of course. He squeezed her hand. Take all the time you need. That was Adrian in a nutshell. Patient, understanding, willing to wait for her to catch up to where he already was, which made everything so much worse. Thursday afternoon, Rosa showed up at the studio unannounced, dressed in ripped jeans and an oversized sweater, looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine ad for artfully disheveled youth. Please tell me you have time for coffee, she said by way of greeting. I'm dying of boredom, and my brother's being weird. Lena glanced at the clock. Her next class wasn't for 2 hours. Which brother? Both, actually, but I meant Adrian. Rosa flopped into one of the chairs by the window. He keeps asking me if I think you're happy, like obsessively. It's getting concerning. Lena's stomach dropped. What did you tell him? That I barely know you, so how would I know? Rosa studied her nails. But between us, you do seem kind of, I don't know, checked out, I guess. I'm just tired. Sure. Rosa didn't sound convinced. Look, I like you. You're way better than his last girlfriend, who was a nightmare. But Adrian's sensitive, you know? He acts all laid back, but he feels things really deeply. And if you're not into this, you should tell him before he gets hurt. I'm into it, Lena said automatically. Rosa raised an eyebrow. You want to try that again with more conviction? I care about your brother. That's not what I asked. Rosa stood, slinging her bag over her shoulder. Whatever, not my business, but for what it's worth. Victor thinks you're going to break Adrian's heart. He hasn't said it directly, but I can tell. He gets all protective and weird when your name comes up. Lena's pulse kicked. Victor talks about me? Not in so many words, but yeah. Rosa headed for the door, then paused. Actually, he's been acting strange lately, more than usual. You know anything about that? Why would I? Just asking. Rosa's expression was unreadable. Anyway, coffee rain check? I've got a thing. She left before Lena could respond, and the studio felt too quiet again. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She lay in bed watching shadows move across the ceiling, her mind replaying every interaction with Victor on an endless loop. The hallway, the dinner, the texts, his visit to the studio, every word. Around midnight, she gave up on sleep and went to the living room, pulling out her laptop. She told herself she was just checking her email, updating the studio website, doing normal productive things. Instead, she found herself typing Victor's name into the search bar. Most of what came up was business-related. Something about construction contracts and property development. A few society page photos from charity events, Victor in a tux looking uncomfortable while some blonde woman clung to his arm. An article about the DeLuca family's real estate holdings that was so dense with legal terminology, Lena gave up after 2 paragraphs. Nothing personal, nothing that explained who he actually was or why he seemed so determined to upend her life. She was about to close the laptop when she found an older article buried deep in the search results. 5 years old, from a local news site. The headline made her breath catch. Construction site incident leaves 1 dead, 2 injured. Lena clicked through, scanning the text. A building collapse. Safety violations. Names she didn't recognize except one, Victor DeLuca, listed among the injured. The article was frustratingly vague about details, but it mentioned he'd been hospitalized for 3 weeks. The scars on his arms suddenly made sense. Lena slammed the laptop shut, her heart hammering. This was wrong. She shouldn't be digging into his past, looking for pieces of him in news articles and photos. This was creepy and invasive, and exactly the kind of thing she'd hate if someone did it to her. But she couldn't stop thinking about it. About Victor trapped under rubble, broken and bleeding. About what that kind of trauma did to a person. Her phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. Can't sleep. Keep thinking about you. This is probably weird, right? Tell me if it's weird. Lena stared at the message, guilt washing over her in waves. Here was Adrian, being sweet and vulnerable, while she was obsessing over his brother like some kind of stalker. Not weird, she typed back. Sweet. Good. Because I have something I want to ask you. Lena's chest tightened. She thought about Victor's warning, about the ring, about Adrian planning some grand romantic gesture. What's that? Tomorrow night. Just you and me. Somewhere nice. Can you make it? This was it, the proposal. It had to be. Lena's hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. Every instinct was screaming at her to say no, to make an excuse, to buy herself more time to figure out what she actually wanted. But what she wanted was the problem. Sure, she sent. What time? 7. I'll pick you up. And Lena, wear something you feel good in. She set the phone down and pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to breathe through the panic rising in her throat. This was supposed to be happy. Adrian was about to propose, and she should be excited. Nervous, maybe, but in a good way. The way people were supposed to feel when someone they loved wanted to spend their life with them. Instead, she felt like she was drowning. Friday dragged. Lena taught her morning classes on autopilot, smiling at the right times and making corrections she barely registered. During lunch, she sat in her office staring at a salad she had no intention of eating. Her phone rang. Maria DeLuca's name flashed on the screen. Lena considered letting it go to voicemail, but that felt cowardly. She answered on the 3rd ring. Lena, sweetheart, how are you? Maria's voice was warm, maternal, in a way that made Lena's chest ache. I'm good. How are you? Wonderful. Listen, I know this is last minute, but I'm hosting a little lunch on Sunday. Nothing fancy, just family. I'd love for you to come. Oh, I don't know. Please, Rosa will be there, and Antonio's sister is visiting from New York. It would mean so much to have you. Maria paused. Adrian mentioned he has plans with you tonight, so I wanted to make sure I got my invite in early. That boy is monopolizing all your time. Lena's heart sank. So Maria knew about tonight too, which meant she probably knew about the ring, about the proposal. Sunday should work, Lena heard herself say. Perfect. 2 o'clock, and don't bring anything except yourself. After she hung up, Lena sat in the silence of her office and tried to remember when her life had become so complicated. 6 months ago, everything made sense. She had her studio, her routine, her carefully constructed piece. Then Adrian walked in, and it should have been simple. It should have been. That evening, Lena went through her closet 3 times before settling on a navy blue dress that was nice without being too formal. She did her makeup carefully, fixed her hair, and stood in front of the mirror trying to psych herself up. You can do this, she whispered to her reflection. He's a good man. He loves you. This is what you want. The words sounded hollow. Adrian arrived at 7 on the dot, holding a single rose and looking nervous in a way she'd never seen before. He wore a charcoal suit, the kind he usually saved for important meetings, and kept fidgeting with his cufflinks. You look beautiful, he said, and meant it. Thanks. You clean up pretty well yourself. The restaurant was downtown, one of those places with white tablecloths and a wine list the size of a phone book. The hostess greeted Adrian by name and led them to a corner table with a view of the city lights. Lena's hands wouldn't stop shaking. They ordered drinks, wine for her, whiskey for him. Adrian was chattier than usual, talking too fast about nothing in particular. The weather. A funny thing that happened at work. The new coffee shop that opened near his condo. Lena nodded along, barely tasting her wine, waiting for the other shoe to drop. It came after the appetizers arrived. Adrian reached across the table, taking both her hands in his. Lena, there's something I need to talk to you about. Here it was, the moment everything changed. Okay, she managed. I've been thinking a lot lately about us, about where we're going, and I realized something. He took a breath. I'm in love with you. Completely, stupidly in love with you. And I know we haven't been together that long, but when you know, right? Lena couldn't breathe. Adrian, wait, let me get this out. His grip on her hands tightened. I want to build a life with you. I want Sunday mornings and terrible movies and arguments about what to have for dinner. I want all of it. He reached into his jacket pocket, and Lena's vision started to tunnel. But instead of a ring box, he pulled out an envelope. So I talked to my friend who owns that space 2 blocks from your studio, Adrian continued, his words tumbling over each other. The one you mentioned wanting to expand into? He's willing to lease it to you at below market rate. I know you've been hesitant about growing the business, but Lena, you're so talented. You could have the biggest yoga studio in the neighborhood. Lena stared at the envelope like it might explode. What? It's not a contract or anything, just the preliminary terms. I thought maybe we could look at it together, talk about what expansion might look like. He was smiling now, proud of himself. I know it's not the same as doing it alone, but I want to support your dreams, however I can. Relief and disappointment crashed through Lena in equal measure. This is... wow. Too much? Adrian's smile faltered. I know I should have asked first. Victor said I was being too pushy, that you might want to do this on your own terms. But I just thought, you talked to Victor about this? Yeah, last week. I wanted his opinion on the lease terms since he deals with property stuff all the time. Adrian rubbed the back of his neck. He actually told me not to do it. Said it might feel like I'm trying to control your business or something. But I'm not, I swear. I just want to help. Lena's mind was reeling. Victor had tried to talk him out of this, had protected her in a way Adrian didn't even realize. Can I think about it? She asked quietly. Of course. Take all the time you need. Adrian squeezed her hands again. I love you, Lena. I just want you to know that. He looked at her expectantly, waiting for her to say it back. 3 simple words that should have been easy. I care about you so much, Lena said instead, and watched something dim in his eyes. Right. Yeah, of course. He released her hands, reaching for his whiskey. Sorry, that was a lot to dump on you at once. No, you're amazing. This whole thing is amazing. Lena forced a smile. I'm just surprised. They finished dinner making small talk. The easy rhythm they usually had turned stilted and awkward. Adrian kept trying to fill the silences, and Lena kept failing to give him what he needed. When he dropped her off, he walked her to her door, but didn't try to come inside. I'll call you tomorrow, he said. Sure. He kissed her, soft and careful, like she was something fragile that might break. When he pulled back, his expression was worried. We're okay, right? We're okay, Lena lied. She watched him drive away, then went inside and sat on her couch in the dark, still holding the envelope he'd given her. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. How'd it go? Lena stared at the message. She should ignore it, should block the number, should do literally anything except respond. He offered me a bigger studio space. Typical. You told him not to. The pause was longer this time. Then, figured you'd hate it. I did. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm not trying to be helpful. Lena's fingers moved before her brain could stop them. Then what are you trying to do? Honestly? I have no idea. She sat there in the darkness, staring at those words, feeling something crack open inside her chest. He told me he loves me, she typed. What did you say? That I care about him. Ouch. I know. Another pause. Then, you should probably stop texting me. Probably. Lena, what? This is a really bad idea. I know that too. She waited, watching the typing indicator appear and disappear, appear and disappear. Finally, tomorrow. Maria's lunch. We need to talk. About what? Everything. Lena's heart was hammering so hard she thought it might crack a rib. She knew what this was, knew what would happen if she agreed, knew exactly where this road led and how badly it would end. Okay, she sent anyway. This time, Victor didn't respond. Saturday morning, Lena woke up feeling like she'd been hit by a truck. She taught her classes in a daze, went home, and spent the rest of the day stress cleaning her apartment until every surface gleamed and her hands were raw from scrubbing. Adrian called around 4. She let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message twice. Hey, it's me. I know I dumped a lot on you last night. Take whatever time you need, okay? No pressure. I love you. The guilt was suffocating. Sunday arrived too fast. Lena changed outfits 4 times before settling on jeans and a simple blouse, casual enough for a family lunch, nice enough that Maria wouldn't think she wasn't trying. The drive to the DeLuca house felt like heading toward an execution. Maria answered the door, pulling Lena into a hug that smelled like vanilla and wine. You're here! Come in! Come in! Everyone's in the back! The backyard was bigger than Lena remembered, or maybe she'd just been too nervous that first night to notice. A long table was set up under a pergola wrapped in climbing roses. Antonio was manning a grill, Rosa was scrolling through her phone, and an older woman Lena didn't recognize was arguing with someone about marinara sauce. And there was Victor, leaning against the fence with a beer, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Lena! Rosa jumped up. Thank God. I'm drowning in family drama. Save me. Lena let herself be pulled into the chaos, accepting a glass of wine from Maria and half listening to the aunt explain her grievances about airport security. Adrian wasn't here yet, something about picking up dessert, which meant she was alone with Victor and no buffer. She lasted 20 minutes before excusing herself to use the bathroom. Inside the house, the noise faded to a dull murmur. Lena stood in the hallway, gripping the sink and trying to remember how to breathe. Running away? Victor's voice came from behind her. She spun around. He was leaning in the doorway, blocking her exit. I needed a minute, she said. Fair enough? He didn't move. We should talk. I thought that's what we were doing. Not here. He glanced toward the backyard. Take a walk with me. Victor. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. Lena knew this was a mistake, knew it with the same certainty she knew her own name. But she followed him anyway, out the front door and down the quiet street lined with old trees and expensive houses. They walked in silence for a full block before Victor finally spoke. I can't keep doing this, he said. Lena's stomach dropped. Doing what? Pretending I don't feel what I feel. Watching you with my brother and acting like it doesn't kill me. He stopped walking, turning to face her. I told myself I could handle it, that it would fade. But it's not fading, Lena. It's getting worse. Don't. Her voice cracked. Please don't do this. I have to. He took a step closer. Because if I don't say it now, I never will. And you need to know. Know what? That I'm in love with you. The words hung in the air between them, devastating and irrevocable. I have been since the first night you walked into that house. And I know it's wrong, and I know it's going to hurt people I care about, but I can't keep lying about it. Lena couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except stand there while her world rearranged itself into something unrecognizable. Say something, Victor said roughly. I'm with Adrian. I know. He's your brother. I know that too. Then why are you telling me this? Because you feel it too. He moved closer, and she didn't back away. Don't you? Lena's eyes burned. She wanted to lie. Wanted to tell him he was crazy, that she didn't know what he was talking about, that she loved Adrian and that was the end of it. But the words wouldn't come. This is insane, she whispered instead. Yeah. Victor's hand came up, fingertips barely grazing her cheek. It really is. They stood there on that quiet suburban street, close enough to kiss, while everything Lena thought she knew about herself crumbled into dust. Then she heard it, the sound of a car engine getting closer. She jerked back just as Adrian's Mercedes turned the corner, pulling up to the curb beside them. He rolled down the window, smiling. "There you are. Mom said you disappeared. Everything okay?" Lena's heart was trying to claw its way out of her chest. "Fine. Just getting some air." "Victor keeping you company?" Adrian's smile was genuine, trusting. "Good man." "Always," Victor said, his voice perfectly even. "Come on, dessert's getting warm. You too, V. Mom's about to start interrogating Aunt Sophia about her love life, and we both know how that ends." Adrian drove ahead, parking in the driveway, leaving Lena and Victor to walk back alone. "That was close," Lena said, her voice shaking. "Too close." Victor's jaw was tight. "This has to stop. I know. I mean it, Lena, before someone gets hurt." "Before?" She laughed, the sound bitter. "I think we're already way past that." They reached the house. Inside, she could hear laughter, voices, the clatter of plates. A family gathering, normal and safe, and everything she was about to destroy. "What do we do?" she asked quietly. Victor looked at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked lost. "I have no idea." They rejoined the lunch like nothing had happened, slipping back into their roles with practiced ease. Adrian pulled Lena down next to him on the bench, his arm around her shoulders, completely oblivious to the fact that 5 minutes ago, his brother had confessed to being in love with her. Victor took a seat across the table, his face carefully blank. He didn't look at Lena once during the meal. Maria had made enough food to feed an army: pasta, grilled chicken, 3 different salads, bread that was still warm. The conversation flowed around Lena like water, easy and familiar. Rosa complained about her internship. Antonio told a long story about a contractor who'd tried to scam him. Aunt Sophia, Victor and Adrian's father's sister, kept refilling everyone's wine glasses and making pointed comments about when she could expect grandnieces and grandnephews. "Give them time, Sophia," Maria said, but she was smiling. Looking at Lena with such warmth, it made her stomach turn. "Time?" Sophia waved her hand dismissively. "They're not getting any younger. When I was their age, I already had 2 kids." "Different generation," Antonio said. "Excuses." Sophia turned to Lena. "You want children, yes?" Lena nearly choked on her wine. "I haven't really thought about it." "She's lying," Rosa said cheerfully. "She teaches kids yoga on Saturday mornings. I've seen the pictures on the studio Instagram. She's great with them." "That's different than having your own," Lena protested. "But you'd want them eventually?" Maria asked, her expression hopeful. Adrian squeezed Lena's shoulder. "Mom, you're making her uncomfortable." "I'm just asking questions." "Interrogating is more like it," Victor said quietly. It was the first time he'd spoken since they sat down. Everyone turned to look at him. "What?" He took a drink of his beer. "You're putting her on the spot. Let her eat in peace." "Thank you, Lena said before she could stop herself. Their eyes met across the table for half a second before Victor looked away, jaw tight. Adrian laughed, oblivious. "Look at that. Victor's defending you. You must have made quite an impression." "She seems like she can handle herself," Victor said flatly. "Doesn't need defending." The conversation moved on, but Lena couldn't focus. She was too aware of Victor's presence, the way he sat perfectly still, the tension in his shoulders. She forced herself to eat, to smile, to nod at appropriate moments. When dessert came out, some elaborate tiramisu that Sophia had brought from a bakery in her neighborhood, Lena excused herself again, this time to actually use the bathroom. She locked the door and gripped the sink, staring at her reflection. Her makeup was still perfect, hair still in place, but her eyes looked wild, desperate. "Pull it together," she whispered. "You just have to make it through lunch. Then you can go home and figure this out." Except there was nothing to figure out. Victor loved her. She felt something for him that went way beyond what she should feel for her boyfriend's brother. And Adrian, sweet, trusting Adrian, had no idea his world was about to implode. When she came back outside, Rosa intercepted her. "Walk with me," Rosa said, not a request. They headed toward the garden at the back of the property, out of earshot from the table. Rosa waited until they were alone before turning to face Lena. "Okay, What's going on? Lena's heart stopped. What do you mean? Don't play dumb. The tension between you and Victor is so thick I could cut it with a knife. And don't tell me I'm imagining it, because I'm not. Nothing's going on. Lena. Rosa's voice was surprisingly gentle. I'm 22, not stupid. I've watched my brothers my entire life. I know when something's off. Lena wanted to deny it, wanted to laugh it off as Rosa being dramatic. But the words wouldn't come. Does Adrian know? Rosa asked. There's nothing to know. But there's something, isn't there? Rosa crossed her arms. You don't have to tell me details. I love my brothers, both of them. And this is going to get messy. I know. So what are you going to do? Lena pressed her hands to her face. I don't know. Rosa was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. For what it's worth, Adrian's great. He's kind and stable, and he'll give you a good life. But Victor, she trailed off. Victor doesn't let people in, ever. So if he's letting you in, that means something. That doesn't make this okay. No, Rosa agreed. It doesn't, but it makes it real. They walked back to the table in silence. Adrian looked up when they approached, smiling that easy smile that used to make Lena feel safe. Everything okay? He asked. Fine, Lena said. Rosa was just showing me Maria's roses. The lie came too easily. They stayed another hour. Sophia told embarrassing stories about Antonio as a child. Maria brought out old photo albums. Adrian sat close to Lena, his hand resting on her knee, occasionally pressing a kiss to her temple. And Victor sat across from them, perfectly composed, giving nothing away. When they finally said their goodbyes, Maria hugged Lena tight. You're family now, she whispered. I hope you know that. The guilt nearly knocked Lena sideways. Adrian drove her home, chattering about work and his plans for the week. Lena stared out the window and tried to focus on his words, but all she could think about was Victor's face when he'd said, I'm in love with you. At her door, Adrian kissed her goodnight. I meant what I said Friday, about loving you. I know you need time, and that's okay. I'm not going anywhere. Lena's throat was tight. Adrian, you don't have to say anything. He tucked her hair behind her ear. Just think about it, okay? About us. About what we could be. She nodded, not trusting her voice. After he left, Lena walked into her apartment and immediately poured herself a glass of wine she had no intention of drinking. She sat on her couch in the dark, phone in hand, staring at Victor's contact. She should delete it, block him, cut off whatever this was before it destroyed everything. Her phone buzzed. A text from Victor. We can't do this. Lena's hand shook as she typed back. I know. I mean it. This stops now. Okay. Another pause. Then, I'm going to stay away. Give you space to figure out what you want. That's probably smart. Probably. A beat. For what it's worth, I wish things were different. Lena stared at those words, tears burning behind her eyes. Me too. She waited for a response that didn't come. After 10 minutes, she set the phone down and let herself cry. Ugly, gasping sobs that left her hollow. The next 2 weeks were hell. Lena threw herself into work with an intensity that bordered on manic. She taught extra classes, took on private clients, reorganized the entire studio from top to bottom. Anything to keep her mind occupied. Adrian called or texted every day. They had dinner twice, went to a movie once. He was patient and sweet and everything she should want. And every time he touched her, all Lena could think about was someone else. Victor kept his word. He didn't text, didn't call, didn't show up at her studio. It was like he'd vanished from her life completely, except he hadn't, because Adrian talked about him constantly. Victor's been weird lately, Adrian said over dinner one night. Moody, more than usual. I asked if something was wrong, but he just told me to mind my business. Maybe he's stressed about work, Lena offered, stabbing at her salad. Maybe. Adrian didn't sound convinced. He's always been intense, but this feels different, like something's eating at him. Lena changed the subject. 2 weeks turned into 3. Lena started to think maybe she could do this. Maybe she could bury whatever she felt for Victor deep enough that it would eventually suffocate. Maybe she could learn to love Adrian the way he deserved. Then Friday night happened. Lena was closing up the studio when her phone rang. Unknown number, which she normally didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Lena?" Marcus's voice, rough and urgent. "It's Marcus, Victor's friend." Her heart dropped. "What's wrong?" "Victor's been in an accident. Car crash. He's at Northwestern Memorial. Thought you should know." "Is he okay?" "Banged up pretty bad. They're running tests now." Marcus paused. "Adrian's on his way, but Victor's been asking for you." "What?" "Yeah, I don't get it either, but he's pretty out of it, and he keeps saying your name. Can you come?" Lena should have said no. Should have told Marcus she'd wait to hear from Adrian. Should have done anything except what she did. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. She grabbed her keys and ran. The hospital was chaos, bright lights and antiseptic smells and too many people moving too fast. Lena found Marcus in the waiting room, pacing. "They took him for a CT scan," Marcus said. "Possible concussion, some broken ribs. Could have been worse." "What happened?" "Someone ran a red light, T-boned him on the driver's side." Marcus scrubbed a hand over his face. "He's lucky to be alive." Lena sank into a chair, her legs suddenly weak. "Where's Adrian?" "Stuck in traffic. Should be here soon." Marcus studied her. "You really care about him, don't you?" "About Victor?" "Yeah." Lena couldn't lie. "Not here, not now." "Yes." Marcus nodded slowly. "Thought so, the way he talks about you. I've known Victor a long time. Never seen him like this about anyone." Before Lena could respond, a doctor appeared. "Family of Victor DeLuca?" "That's us," Marcus said. "He's stable." The CT came back clear, no bleeding on the brain, 3 broken ribs, some lacerations, heavy bruising. "We want to keep him overnight for observation, but he should make a full recovery." Relief flooded through Lena so powerfully she nearly collapsed. "Can we see him?" Marcus asked. "One at a time. He's pretty groggy from the pain medication." Marcus looked at Lena. "You go." "I shouldn't." "Go." His voice was firm. "Before Adrian gets here and things get complicated." Lena followed the doctor down a series of hallways to a room at the end. Through the window, she could see Victor lying in the bed, bandages on his forehead, his face pale against the white sheets. She pushed open the door, and his eyes found hers immediately. "You came," he said, his voice rough. Marcus called. Lena moved closer, her chest tight. "You look terrible. Feel worse." He tried to smile and winced. "Sorry, the drugs are making me stupid." "What happened?" "Someone forgot how traffic lights work." He shifted, grimacing. "Could have been worse. At least the car's totaled, so I don't have to deal with insurance trying to fix it." "That's not funny." "Little bit funny." His eyes were glassy, unfocused. "I thought I was going to die." Lena's throat closed. "Don't say that. It's true. Right before impact, all I could think was that I'd never told you." He stopped, jaw clenching. "Never mind. Forget I said anything." "Told me what?" "Lena." His voice cracked. "You shouldn't be here." "Marcus said you were asking for me. I was out of my head, didn't know what I was saying." Victor closed his eyes. "You should go, before Adrian gets here. I'm not leaving you like this. You have to." He looked at her, and despite the drugs, his gaze was clear. "Because if you stay, I'm going to say things I can't take back, and you're going to have to choose. And I don't think either of us is ready for that." "Victor, please." The word was barely a whisper. "Just go." Lena stood frozen, torn between staying and running. Then she heard voices in the hallway, Adrian's voice talking to a nurse. She looked at Victor one more time. "I'm glad you're okay." "Lena." He caught her hand as she turned to leave. "I meant what I said, that day at your studio, all of it." "I know." She pulled free and slipped out of the room just as Adrian rounded the corner. He pulled her into a tight hug. "Thank God you're here. Marcus texted me. How is he?" "Stable. Broken ribs, some cuts. They're keeping him overnight." Jesus. Adrian pulled back, his face drawn. This is my fault. What? No, it's not. We had a fight yesterday. A bad one. I said some things I shouldn't have, and he stormed out. If I hadn't… Adrian, this was an accident, a car accident. It has nothing to do with you. But Adrian wasn't listening. He was already heading toward Victor's room, leaving Lena standing in the hallway alone. She should leave. Should go home and process everything that had just happened. Instead, she found Marcus in the waiting room. What did they fight about? She asked. Marcus looked uncomfortable. You should ask them. Marcus. He sighed. You, mostly. Adrian wanted Victor's blessing to propose. Victor told him it was a mistake. Things escalated from there. Lena's chest tightened. What did Victor say? That you weren't ready. That Adrian was rushing into something you clearly had doubts about. Marcus met her eyes. He wasn't wrong, was he? No, Lena whispered. He wasn't. She left the hospital before Adrian came back out, drove home in a daze, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. Inside her apartment, she paced for 20 minutes before her phone rang. Adrian's name flashed on the screen. Hey, she answered. Hey. His voice was strained. Sorry I didn't come to find you. Victor and I needed to talk. It's fine. How is he? Pissed off about the car. Typical Victor. Adrian was quiet for a moment. He told me about the fight, about what he said. Lena's heart stopped. Oh? Yeah. He thinks I'm moving too fast with you, that I'm pushing for things you're not ready for. Adrian laughed, but it sounded hollow. He's probably right. I have a tendency to do that. Adrian, no, let me finish. He took a breath. I know I told you I love you, and I meant it, but I've been thinking, maybe Victor's right. Maybe we need to slow down, take pressure off. Relief and guilt warred in Lena's chest. You don't have to do that. I want to, because the last thing I want is to lose you by holding on too tight. His voice softened. You mean too much to me. Lena pressed a hand to her mouth, fighting tears. You're a good person. I try. A pause. Get some rest, okay? I'll call you tomorrow. After he hung up, Lena sat in the dark and let herself fall apart. Not crying exactly, just breaking down under the weight of everything she'd been carrying. Her phone buzzed. A text from Victor. Did Adrian call you? Yes. I told him to back off, give you space. Why? Because you deserve to make your own choice without pressure from either of us. Lena stared at the message, something fierce and painful blooming in her chest. That was the fight? You told him not to propose? Among other things. What other things? The pause was long. Then, that I was in love with you, that I couldn't watch him marry someone who didn't love him back, that I was a terrible brother and he should probably cut me out of his life. Lena's vision blurred. What did he say? That he already knew. About both of us. The world tilted. What? He's not stupid, Lena. He's known for weeks, maybe longer. Then why? Because he loves you. And he thought if he held on long enough, you'd come around. Another pause. I told him you wouldn't, that it wasn't fair to either of you. Lena couldn't breathe. Victor, I'm sorry for all of this, for making everything complicated. It's not just you, I know, but I'm the one who couldn't keep my mouth shut. A beat. For what it's worth, I think he'll be okay. Eventually. And us? The question hung there, unanswered. For so long, Lena thought he wouldn't respond. Finally, there is no us. There can't be. Not after this. Something inside Lena cracked. So that's it? You tell me you love me and then walk away? What else is there to do? Destroy what's left of my relationship with my brother? Hurt my family? Make you choose between us? His words came faster now, raw. I won't do that to you, or to him. What if I want to choose? Don't. The word was final. Please, Lena, just don't. She stared at her phone until the screen went dark, then threw it across the room. The next morning, Lena woke up to 17 missed calls from Adrian. She called him back with her heart in her throat. Thank God, he said when he answered. I've been trying to reach you for an hour. My phone died. What's wrong? It's Victor. He checked himself out of the hospital against medical advice. Won't answer his phone. I'm worried. Where would he go? I don't know. That's why I'm calling you. Adrian's voice cracked. He listens to you. If anyone can talk sense into him, it's you. Lena closed her eyes. Adrian, I don't think... Please, I know things are weird between all of us right now, but he's my brother, and he's hurt, and I can't find him. Okay, Lena heard herself say. I'll try. She hung up and pulled up Victor's contact. Her finger hovered over the call button. This was a bad idea, the worst idea. She should call Marcus or Maria, or literally anyone except the man she'd spent the last month trying not to fall in love with. She hit call anyway. He answered on the third ring. You shouldn't be calling me. Adrian's worried. Where are you? None of his business. Victor. I'm fine, Lena. Tell him to stop hovering. You have broken ribs. You're supposed to be in the hospital. I've had worse. His voice was rough, tired. I just needed to get out of there. Where are you? She asked again. Silence. Then quietly. My place. I'm coming over. Bad idea. Probably I'm coming anyway. She hung up before he could argue. The drive to Victor's apartment took 30 minutes through Saturday morning traffic. Lena used her key code from last time and rode the elevator up, her heart hammering against her ribs. He opened the door before she could knock, looking worse than he had in the hospital. Pale, bruised, moving carefully like everything hurt. You look like death, Lena said. Feel like it too. He stepped back, letting her in. This is a mistake. So you keep saying... Victor closed the door and leaned against it, watching her. Why are you really here? Because Adrian asked me to find you. That's not why. Lena turned to face him. Then why do you think I'm here? Because you can't stay away any more than I can. His voice was quiet, devastating. Because we're both in too deep and neither of us knows how to stop. I should go. Yeah. He didn't move. You should. But Lena didn't move either. They stood there in his living room. The air between them electric and dangerous, both of them balanced on the edge of something they couldn't take back. Tell me to leave, Lena whispered. I can't. Try. Victor's jaw clenched. You need to walk out that door right now, before we do something we can't undo. And if I don't want to? Lena. Her name was a warning, a plea. Don't do this. Do what? She took a step closer. Say what we're both thinking. Admit that this thing between us isn't going away. It has to. Why? Because Adrian knows. The words burst out of her. You said so yourself. He knows how we feel and he's still trying to hold on, which isn't fair to any of us. Victor's eyes closed. So what are you saying? I'm saying maybe we stop fighting it. Her voice shook. Maybe we stop pretending this isn't real. You want to be with me? He looked at her, and she could see the war happening behind his eyes. After everything? After what it'll do to my family? I don't know what I want. The honesty felt like ripping off a bandage. But I know I can't keep lying to myself, or to Adrian, or to you. Victor was across the room before she registered he'd moved, his hands cupping her face. If we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back. You understand that? Lena's heart was in her throat. I know. It's going to hurt him. It's going to hurt everyone. I know that too. And you're willing to do it anyway? She looked up at him, at this man who'd turned her entire life upside down, who'd made her question everything she thought she wanted. Yes. Victor kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't sweet. It was desperate and raw and everything they'd been holding back for weeks. Lena's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer even as her brain screamed that this was wrong. But it didn't feel wrong. It felt like coming home. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Victor rested his forehead against hers. We're terrible people, he said roughly. I know. This is going to destroy everything. I know. He kissed her again, softer this time. No going back. No going back, Lena agreed. And just like that, everything changed. They stayed like that for a long moment, foreheads pressed together, breathing each other's air. Then reality came crashing back. "I need to call Adrian," Lena said quietly. Victor's grip on her tightened before he let go. "Yeah, you do. Not over the phone, though. He deserves better than that. He deserves better than all of this." Victor moved to the couch, sitting down carefully. His ribs were clearly bothering him. "But you're right, face to face." Lena pulled out her phone, hands shaking. "I should go now. Get it over with." "Lena," Victor's voice stopped her. "Whatever happens, however bad it gets, I'm not going anywhere. You understand that?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. The drive to Adrian's condo felt like heading to her own execution. Lena gripped the steering wheel so hard her knuckles went white, practicing what she'd say in her head. None of it sounded right. How did you tell someone you'd been lying to them for weeks? That you'd fallen for someone else? That the someone else was his own brother? Adrian buzzed her up immediately. He opened the door looking relieved, then concerned when he saw her face. "What's wrong? Did you find Victor?" "He's at his place. He's fine." Lena stepped inside, her chest tight. "We need to talk." Adrian's expression shifted. "Okay, that sounds serious." "It is." She couldn't look at him. "Can we sit?" They moved to the living room. Adrian sat on the couch, and Lena took the chair across from him, needing distance. "You're scaring me," Adrian said. "I'm sorry." The words felt inadequate. "Adrian, I don't know how to say this." "Then just say it, whatever it is." Lena took a breath. "I can't do this anymore. Us. I can't keep pretending everything's fine when it's not." Adrian's face went pale. "Is this about me saying I love you? Because I meant what I said yesterday. We can slow down. It's not about that." But Lena's throat was closing. "It's about me. About what I feel or don't feel." "You don't love me." He said it flatly, like he'd known all along. "I care about you so much. You're one of the best people I've ever met. But no, I don't love you. Not the way you deserve to be loved." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. "Is there someone else?" Lena's silence was answer enough. Jesus. He stood pacing to the window. "How long?" "Adrian." "How long?" "Lena? Nothing happened until today. I swear. But the feelings, they've been there for a while." He turned to look at her, and the hurt in his eyes nearly broke her. "It's Victor, isn't it?" Lena's chest constricted. "How did you—" "I'm not blind. I've seen the way you look at each other, the way the air changes when you're in the same room." He laughed bitterly. "I kept telling myself I was imagining it, that my brother wouldn't do that to me." He tried to stay away. We both did. Clearly not hard enough. Adrian's hands clenched into fists. "Did you sleep with him?" "No, I came here straight from his apartment to tell you the truth." How noble. The sarcasm was so unlike him it stung. "So what? You kissed him once and decided that was enough to blow up our relationship?" "It's more than that." Lena stood, needing to make him understand. "I've been lying to myself for months, trying to force something that wasn't there, and that's not fair to you. You could have told me weeks ago, before I fell in love with you, before I started planning a future." "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix this." Adrian's voice cracked. "You let me believe we had something real while you were falling for my brother behind my back." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" He moved closer and she could see tears in his eyes. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like I was just a placeholder until something better came along." "That's not true. What we had was real. I couldn't make myself feel more than I did." Adrian wiped at his eyes roughly. "Does he love you?" Lena hesitated. "He says he does. Of course he does." The bitterness was back. "Victor gets everything. The business, Dad's respect. And now you. This isn't a competition, isn't it?" He laughed again, hollow. "My whole life, I've been the good one, the easy one, the one who does what's expected, and Victor's the one who does whatever he wants, and somehow everyone still loves him more. That's not... Get out. His voice was quiet, but final. Adrian, please. I said get out. He wouldn't look at her. I can't be around you right now. Lena grabbed her bag, tears streaming down her face. At the door, she turned back. For what it's worth, you're going to find someone who loves you the way you deserve. Someone better than me. Yeah. Adrian's voice was hollow. Maybe. Lena left before she could make it worse. In her car, she sat in the parking garage and sobbed until her chest ached and her eyes were swollen. She'd done the right thing. She knew she had, but knowing didn't make it hurt less. Her phone rang. Victor's name flashed on the screen. How'd it go? He asked when she answered. Terrible. He hates me. Hates both of us. Yeah. Victor was quiet. That's fair. He called me a placeholder. Said I was just using him until something better came along. You weren't. Wasn't I? Lena's voice broke. Because it feels like maybe he was right. Don't do that. Don't make this smaller than it is just because it's hard. Victor's voice was firm. You told him the truth. That took guts. It took me breaking his heart. Better now than after he proposed. After you were married and miserable, and he spent years wondering why you couldn't love him back. Lena knew he was right. Didn't make it easier. Come back here, Victor said quietly. You shouldn't be alone right now. I should go home. Lena, what? Come back. Not a command, a request. Please. She went. When she got to Victor's apartment, he was waiting at the door. He pulled her inside and just held her while she cried into his shirt, his hand stroking her hair, not saying anything because there was nothing to say. Eventually, the tears stopped. Lena pulled back, wiping at her eyes. I look like a mess. You look perfect. Victor's thumb brushed across her cheek. How bad was it? Bad. He knew about us. He's known for weeks. I figured. Victor led her to the couch, sitting down carefully. He confronted me at the hospital last night, before you got there. Said he wasn't stupid, that he could see what was happening. Why didn't he say anything to me? Because he was hoping if he ignored it long enough it would go away, that you'd choose him. Lena leaned into Victor's side, careful of his ribs. He said you get everything, that he's always been second to you. Victor was quiet for a long time. That's not true. Adrian's the good one. Always has been. Dad trusts him with things he'd never trust me with. Mom actually likes his girlfriends. Not anymore. No. Victor's voice was grim. Definitely not anymore. What happens now? Lena asked quietly. Now? We deal with the fallout. He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. Fair warning, it's going to be ugly. My family doesn't do conflict quietly. Maybe we should wait. Give everyone time to cool off before we... Before we what? Pretend we're not together? Victor shifted so he could look at her. I'm done hiding, done pretending. If we're doing this, we're doing it for real. Your family's going to hate me. Probably, for a while. He cupped her face. But I don't care. I spent 32 years doing what everyone expected, playing it safe, keeping the peace. And I'm tired, Lena. I want something real, even if it's messy. She kissed him, and it felt different this time. Less desperate, more certain. Okay, she said. For real. They spent the rest of Saturday holed up in Victor's apartment, avoiding the outside world. He was supposed to be resting his ribs, but he kept trying to do things. Make coffee, grab his laptop, pace the living room until Lena physically pushed him back onto the couch. You're the worst patient, she muttered. You're bossy when you're worried. Someone has to be. You checked yourself out of the hospital with broken ribs. I've had broken ribs before. They heal. He pulled her down next to him. And I heal faster when you're around. That's medically impossible. Doesn't make it less true. They ordered takeout and watched bad movies and pretended like the world outside didn't exist, but reality was waiting. Sunday morning, Maria called Victor. He stared at his phone for 3 rings before answering. Hey, Mom. Lena couldn't hear Maria's side of the conversation, but she could tell from Victor's expression it wasn't good. Yeah, I know. His jaw was tight. He told you? More talking on the other end. I'm not going to apologize for... Victor stopped, listening. That's not fair. Whatever Maria said next made Victor's face go hard. Fine, I'll be there. He hung up and tossed the phone onto the couch. Family meeting, tonight at 6. What did she say? That I'm selfish and cruel, and she didn't raise me to betray my own brother. Victor's voice was flat. Among other things. Lena's stomach twisted. I should come with you. Absolutely not. It's going to be a bloodbath. All the more reason I should be there. This isn't just your mess, it's mine too. Lena, I'm coming. Her voice was firm. We're in this together, remember? Victor looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Together. The hours until 6 o'clock dragged. Victor tried to work, gave up, tried to read, gave up on that too. Lena paced his apartment, running through worst-case scenarios in her head. At 5:30, they got in Victor's rental car. His truck was still being processed by insurance, and drove to his parents' house. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing left to say. Antonio opened the door, his expression cold. Victor. Lena. Dad. They followed him inside. The whole family was there. Maria in the kitchen, her face red like she'd been crying. Rosa on the couch, arms crossed. And Adrian, standing by the fireplace, looking like he hadn't slept. Maria turned when they walked in. How could you? Victor stepped forward. Mom, don't. Her voice was sharp. Don't try to explain this away. What you did was unforgivable. I didn't plan for this to happen. But it did, and you let it. Maria's eyes shifted to Lena. Both of you. Mrs. DeLuca, I'm so sorry. Lena started. You came into our home. We welcomed you, treated you like family, and you repay us by breaking my son's heart? It wasn't like that, Lena said quietly. Then what was it like? Maria's voice rose. Because from where I stand, it looks like you used Adrian while carrying on with Victor behind his back. Nothing happened until yesterday, Victor cut in. And even then, Lena went straight to Adrian. She didn't hide it. How noble, Rosa muttered. Antonio held up a hand. Everyone calm down. Yelling isn't going to fix this. Nothing's going to fix this, Adrian said. It was the first time he'd spoken. His voice was hollow. They're in love. What's there to fix? The room went silent. Is that true? Maria asked, looking between Victor and Lena. You love him? Lena met her eyes. Yes. After 6 months with my other son? I didn't want to. I tried not to. But yes. Maria's face crumpled. And you? She turned to Victor. You love her enough to destroy your relationship with your brother? I don't want to destroy anything, Victor said. But yeah, I love her. Adrian laughed bitterly. Well, that's settled then. Victor gets what he wants, like always. That's not fair, Victor said. Isn't it? Adrian moved closer, and Lena could see the anger radiating off him. You've spent your whole life taking whatever you wanted, consequences be damned. And now you've taken the one person who was supposed to be mine. She's not a possession, Adrian. She's a person who gets to make her own choices. Choices you influenced, Adrian's voice rose. You knew how I felt about her, and you couldn't just let me have this one thing. You can't have someone who doesn't want to be had, Victor shot back. Stop it. Antonio's voice cut through the argument. Both of you. The brothers fell silent, glaring at each other. Antonio turned to Lena. What do you want from this? From my family? Lena's throat was tight. I never meant to hurt anyone. I know that doesn't matter now, but it's true. And I understand if you can't forgive me, but I'm not going to apologize for choosing honesty over continuing to lie. Very convenient, Rosa said. This honesty. You think this was easy? Lena turned to her. You think I wanted to blow up my relationship and destroy my connection to all of you? I cared about Adrian. I still do. But I couldn't keep pretending to feel something I didn't. So you decided to feel something for his brother instead, Maria said coldly. I didn't decide anything. It just happened. Things don't just happen, Maria snapped. People make choices, and you chose wrong. Victor stepped between them. That's enough. You want to be angry? Be angry at me, but leave her out of it. She's standing in my living room, Maria said. She's part of it. Then we'll leave. Victor took Lena's hand. We came here to face you, to try to explain. But if you're just going to attack her, we're done. Victor, wait. Adrian's voice stopped them at the door. He looked at Lena, his expression raw. Did you ever love me? Even a little? Lena's eyes filled with tears. I cared about you more than I've cared about anyone in a long time. But no, I never loved you, and I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry I couldn't be what you needed. Adrian nodded slowly. At least you're honest now. He walked out of the room, and a moment later they heard a door slam upstairs. Maria pressed a hand to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Antonio put an arm around her. I think you should go, he said quietly. Give us time. Victor nodded. We will. But for the record, I'm not sorry for loving her. I'm sorry it hurt Adrian, but I'm not sorry for this. They left before anyone could respond. In the car, Lena couldn't stop shaking. That was awful. Yeah. Victor's jaw was tight. It was. Your mom hates me. She'll get over it, eventually. You don't know that. Victor pulled over, putting the car in park. He turned to face her. Listen to me. This is going to be hard. Harder than anything either of us has been through. My family might not forgive us. Adrian definitely won't. At least not for a long time. And people are going to judge us. I know. But I need you to understand something. He took her hand. I don't regret this. Not for a second. And if you're having doubts, if you're thinking maybe we made a mistake, tell me now. Lena looked at him. Really looked at him. At this man who'd upended her life, who'd made her question everything, who'd refused to let her settle for less than what she really wanted. No doubts, she said. You're sure? I'm sure. He kissed her, and despite everything, Lena felt something settle in her chest. This was right. Messy and complicated and harder than she'd ever imagined, but right. The next few weeks were brutal. Adrian stopped speaking to Victor entirely. Maria called occasionally, always to tell Victor how disappointed she was. Rosa sent a single text that just said, I can't believe you, and then went radio silent. Antonio was the only one who reached out with any kind of neutrality, asking Victor to meet for coffee. They sat in a diner for 2 hours while Antonio asked questions, not accusatory ones, just trying to understand. You really love her? Antonio asked. Yeah, Dad, I really do. And she loves you? She says she does. Antonio stirred his coffee, thinking, your mother thinks you're making a mistake, that you're confusing attraction for something deeper. She's wrong. Maybe. Antonio met his eyes. But son, understand what you're asking. Adrian is your brother. If you stay with Lena, things might never be the same between you two. I know. And you're willing to accept that? Victor was quiet for a moment. I don't want to lose him, but I can't give her up either, so yeah, I have to accept it. Antonio nodded slowly. Then I hope you're right about her, because if you're not, you'll have lost your brother for nothing. The conversation stuck with Victor. He told Lena about it that night, lying in bed in his apartment. What if my dad's right? He said quietly. What if this falls apart in 6 months and I've destroyed my family for nothing? Lena rolled to face him. Do you think it will? No, but I didn't think a lot of things that ended up being true. Victor. She put a hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat. I can't promise we'll work out forever. Nobody can. But I can promise I'm all in. That I'm not going anywhere unless you want me to. I don't want you to. Then stop borrowing trouble. She kissed him softly. We'll deal with problems as they come. Together. Together, he repeated. But the problems kept coming. 3 weeks after the family meeting, someone tried to run Victor off the road. He came home shaken, telling Lena about the black SUV that had tailgated him for miles before trying to force him into oncoming traffic. It could have been an accident, Lena said, but she didn't believe it. It wasn't. Victor was pacing his apartment. I've made enemies in business. People who don't like the way we operate. What kind of enemies? He hesitated. The DeLuca family doesn't just do legitimate real estate development. There are other aspects to the business, things I've been trying to distance myself from. Lena's stomach dropped. What kind of things? Nothing illegal, not exactly, but we have competitors who play dirty, and when they want to send a message, they get creative. Victor, if you're in danger, Bisha, I can handle it. But his expression said otherwise. 2 days later, someone broke into Lena's studio. Nothing was stolen, but the place was trashed, equipment damaged, files scattered, a message spray-painted on the wall, "Back off." Lena stood in the wreckage, hands shaking, while Victor called someone on his phone. When he hung up, his face was grim. "Pack a bag. You're staying with me until this is resolved. I'm not leaving my studio." "Lena, this is my business, my life. I'm not running." "Someone just broke in and threatened you." Victor's voice was strained. "This isn't a game." "I know that, but I also know I can't live my life scared." She started picking up overturned chairs. "Help me clean up or go home. Those are your options." Victor stared at her for a moment, then started righting furniture. "You're the most stubborn person I've ever met. Takes one to know one." They worked in silence, cleaning and cataloging damage for the police report. When they were done, it was past midnight. Lena locked up and let Victor drive her home, but she refused to pack a bag. "At least let me stay here," he said, "on your couch, just so I know you're safe." She looked at him, at the worry in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, and relented. "Fine, but you're not sleeping on the couch." That night, curled up next to him in her bed, Lena asked the question that had been eating at her. What if this doesn't stop? What if whoever's doing this keeps escalating? Victor's arm tightened around her. "Then I deal with it." "How?" "However I have to." His voice was dark. "I've protected what's mine before. I'll do it again." "I'm not a possession to be protected." "I know, but that doesn't mean I'm going to let anyone hurt you." The next morning, Victor called a family meeting of his own. Not at his parents' house, at a restaurant downtown, neutral territory. He invited Antonio, Maria, Adrian, and Rosa. Only Antonio showed up. "The others aren't ready," he said simply. "Maria's still hurt. Adrian won't even talk about you. And Rosa says she needs more time." "I get it." Victor looked tired. "But I need you to know something. Someone's targeting Lena because of me. Her studio got broken into. There was a message." Antonio's expression darkened. "The Castellanos?" "Probably. They've been pushing back on the downtown development project, trying to muscle in." "And they think threatening your girlfriend will make you back off?" "They think it'll distract me, make me sloppy." Victor leaned forward. "I need to handle this, but I can't do it if I'm worried about her safety every second. What are you asking? Help me end this, quickly, before someone gets hurt." Antonio was quiet for a long moment. "Your mother would kill me for getting involved." "Mom doesn't need to know." "Victor, Dad, please, I'm asking as your son. Help me protect her." Antonio sighed. "What do you need?" Over the next week, things moved fast. Victor had meetings Lena wasn't invited to, came home with tense shoulders and tight expressions. He wouldn't talk about the details, just kept assuring her it would be handled. Then one night, he came home and pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. "It's done," he said into her hair. "It's over." "What happened?" "We reached an understanding. The Castellanos will back off and will stay out of their territory. It cost us the downtown project, but..." He pulled back to look at her. "It was worth it. Victor, you didn't have to give that up." "Yes, I did." His voice was firm. "Some things matter more than business. You matter more." Lena's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just kiss me." She did. A month later, things started to shift. Rosa sent Victor a text. "Coffee?" They met at a place near her gallery. Rosa looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her cup. "I'm still mad at you, she said without preamble. "I know. Adrian's a mess. He moved out of his condo. Won't date, barely talks to anyone. Victor's jaw clenched. I'm sorry. Are you though? Rosa met his eyes. Because you don't seem sorry. You seem happy. I am happy, and I'm sorry Adrian's hurting. Both things can be true. Rosa was quiet for a moment. Mom thinks you're going to break up with her, that this whole thing is just a phase. It's not. That's what I told her. Rosa took a sip of coffee. For what it's worth, I like Lena. She's good for you. You're less angry, I guess. More like a real person. Thanks, I think. But if you hurt her, if this blows up and you leave her dealing with the fallout alone, I'll never forgive you. Clear? Crystal. Rosa stood to leave, then paused. Adrian asked about you yesterday. First time in weeks. Victor's heart jumped. What did he say? Asked if you were still with her. I said yes. He didn't say anything else, just nodded. Rosa shouldered her bag. It's not much, but it's something. Small victories. 2 months after everything imploded, Maria called Lena directly. Can you come to the house? She asked. Just you, not Victor. Lena's stomach twisted, but she agreed. Maria answered the door, looking older than Lena remembered. They sat in the living room where that awful confrontation had happened, and for a minute neither spoke. Finally, Maria said, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about choosing honesty. Mrs. DeLuca, let me finish. Maria's hands twisted in her lap. I raised my boys to be good men, to do the right thing, and I thought that meant staying loyal, keeping promises, never causing pain, but I'm starting to think maybe I was wrong. Lena didn't know what to say. Adrian is hurting, and as his mother, my instinct is to blame you for that, to hate you for choosing Victor. Maria's eyes filled with tears. But the truth is, if you'd stayed with him, if you'd married him without loving him, that would have hurt him worse. Eventually. I never wanted to hurt him at all. I know, that's what I'm trying to say. Maria wiped at her eyes. You did the hard thing, the honest thing, and I punished you for it because it was easier than admitting my son fell in love with someone who didn't love him back. He deserves someone who loves him the way Victor loves me. He does. And maybe someday he'll find that. Maria reached across the coffee table, taking Lena's hand. I'm not saying I'm happy about how this happened, but I'm saying I understand, and I'm sorry for making you feel unwelcome in our family. Lena's throat was tight. Does this mean... It means you're still family, if you want to be. Maria squeezed her hand. Victor loves you. I can see that. And as much as it pains me to admit it, you're good for him. You make him softer, less reckless. He makes me braver. Then hold on to that. Maria smiled sadly. But be patient with Adrian. He needs time. I will. I am. They talked for another hour, clearing air that had been thick with resentment. When Lena left, she felt lighter than she had in months. Victor was waiting at his apartment, pacing. How'd it go? Better than expected. Lena wrapped her arms around him. Your mom doesn't hate me anymore. She never hated you, she just hated the situation. He kissed the top of her head. 1 down, 2 to go. Adrian might never forgive us. Maybe not, but we keep trying anyway. 3 months, 4, 6. Life found a new rhythm. Lena's studio reopened, stronger than before. She hired an assistant instructor, finally taking Maria's advice about expanding. Victor threw himself into work, restructuring parts of the business to make it more legitimate, cleaner. They had dinner at Maria and Antonio's house every other Sunday. Rosa came when she could. Adrian never did, but he stopped actively avoiding them at family events. Progress. One night, almost a year after that first dinner, Victor and Lena were at his apartment when someone knocked on the door. Victor answered it. Adrian stood in the hallway. The brothers stared at each other for a long moment. Then Adrian said, "Can we talk?" Victor nodded, stepping aside. Adrian came in, nodding awkwardly at Lena before turning back to his brother. "I'm not here to forgive you," Adrian said. "Not yet. Maybe not ever, I don't know." "Okay. But I've been in therapy, talking about a lot of stuff, and my therapist says I need closure, so I'm here to get it." "What do you need?" Victor asked quietly. I need to know if it was worth it. Adrian's voice cracked. Destroying what we had. Was she worth it? Victor didn't hesitate. Yes. Adrian nodded, like he'd expected that answer. He turned to Lena. Do you love him? Yes, Lena said. Are you going to hurt him? Not if I can help it. That's not a promise. No, but it's honest. Lena met his eyes. I can't promise forever. Nobody can. But I can promise I'm not going anywhere unless he asks me to leave. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at Victor. I loved her first. You know that, right? I know. And you took her anyway. I didn't take her. She chose. Victor's voice was gentle. And I know that doesn't make it hurt less. But she's not property to be taken. I know that. Adrian's shoulders sagged. I'm trying to be okay with this. I'm trying to be the bigger person. But some days I just hate both of you. That's fair. Is it? Adrian laughed bitterly. Because it doesn't feel fair. None of this feels fair. No, Victor agreed. It doesn't. Adrian moved toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, I see it. Why she chose you. You're better for her than I ever was. Adrian, don't. He held up a hand. Just take care of her. If you're going to destroy our relationship for this, at least make it mean something. I will. Adrian left without another word. Victor stood at the door for a long time after he was gone, just staring at nothing. That was hard, Lena said quietly. Yeah. Victor turned to her. But it was necessary. Do you think he'll ever really forgive you? I don't know. Maybe. Victor pulled her close. But I meant what I said. You were worth it. You're worth everything. 2 years later, Lena stood in the backyard of the DeLuca house, watching Victor argue with his father about the best way to grill steaks. Maria was in the kitchen with Rosa, arguing about salad dressing. Normal family chaos. Adrian was there too, with a woman named Claire he'd been dating for 6 months. She was kind, funny, and clearly crazy about him. Watching them together, Lena felt the last knot of guilt in her chest finally loosen. He'd found his person, someone who loved him back. You okay? Victor asked, coming up behind her. Yeah. She leaned into him. Just thinking. About? About how messy this all was. How much it hurt. How many people said we'd never last. And we did. She turned to face him. We're still here. Victor smiled, that rare, genuine smile that still made her heart skip. We are. Do you ever regret it? How it all went down? The mess? The family drama? Losing time with Adrian? He considered. I regret that people got hurt. But choosing you? Never. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Victor and Lena sat on his couch with the lights low and comfortable silence between them. I've been thinking, Victor said. Dangerous. Funny. He shifted so he could look at her. I want to ask you something. Lena's heart kicked up. Okay. Move in with me, officially, not just leaving a toothbrush and some clothes. Actually live here. She blinked. That's what you wanted to ask? What did you think I was going to ask? Nothing. Never mind. But she was smiling. Yes. Yes? Yes, I'll move in with you. Yes, I want to build something real. Yes to all of it. Victor kissed her, and it felt like coming home. Because that's what this was, Lena realized. Home wasn't the yoga studio or her apartment or even this building. Home was wherever Victor was. Messy, complicated, hard-won, and more real than anything she'd ever known. She'd walked into the DeLuca house 2 years ago expecting an awkward dinner. Instead, she'd found a storm that rearranged her entire life. And she wouldn't change a single thing. Life wasn't perfect. Victor still had moments where he pushed her away, trying to protect her from his world. Lena still had doubts sometimes, wondering if she'd made the right choices. Adrian was civil but distant, and Maria still occasionally looked at her like she wasn't sure whether to hug her or lecture her. But they were building something, day by day, choice by choice. something honest and difficult and worth every sacrifice. The next morning, Lena woke up in Victor's bed, their bed now, and watched him sleep. Scars on his arms from an accident 5 years ago, new lines around his eyes from stress and laughter. A man who'd risked everything for her. He opened his eyes, caught her staring. What? Nothing, just looking. Creepy. You love it. I love you. He said it easily now, like breathing. I love you too. And it was true. Messy, complicated, born from chaos and pain, but true. Sometimes the right love isn't the easy one. Sometimes it's the one that makes you braver, more honest, more yourself. The one that asks you to risk everything and trust that it'll be worth it. Lena had chosen the harder path, had hurt people she cared about, had destroyed what was comfortable in pursuit of what was real. And she'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because some loves are worth fighting for, worth the judgment and the pain and the slow, difficult work of rebuilding what you've broken. This was that kind of love. The kind that didn't just happen to you, the kind you chose every single day, knowing full well what it cost. And every single day, Lena chose Victor, just like he chose her.